Have you always felt different from other people, as if you carried something inside you that no one around you can understand? Maybe you've been through experiences that completely changed your worldview, or you feel a constant restlessness that you were made for something greater than the ordinary life everyone else accepts. If you're watching this video right now, it's no coincidence. There's a deep spiritual reason why you were guided here at this exact moment. And what you're about to discover in the next few minutes may finally explain why your life has always seemed to follow a completely different script from everyone around you. There are specific signs, clear spiritual markers that reveal when someone has been set apart by God for a sacred purpose. And we're not talking about vague signs that could apply to anyone. These are 7 powerful and unmistakable signs that form a consistent pattern in the lives of the chosen. From the profound spiritual awakening that divides your life into before and after, to the ability to influence environments just by your presence. If you identify with most of these signs, prepare yourself because your spiritual identity is about to make a lot more sense. Maybe you've been rejected repeatedly and never understood why. Maybe you feel a direct connection with God that goes beyond traditional religion. Maybe you carry a sense of purpose so strong that it makes you restless even when everything seems fine. All of this has meaning, and every experience that made you feel strange or out of place was actually God preparing you for a mission you haven't even begun to fully fulfill yet. So take a deep breath and pay attention, because this message will validate experiences you've had but never knew how to explain, and will reveal that you're not lost. You're exactly where you need to be to receive confirmation that yes, you are one of God's chosen. Have you ever wondered why your life seems to follow a completely different script from what you see around you? It's not paranoia or a superiority complex. There are clear signs, specific spiritual markers that reveal when someone has been set apart by God for a sacred purpose. These signs don't appear in isolation. They form a consistent pattern that runs through your entire journey, from childhood until now, creating a unique narrative that only makes sense when you understand you were chosen from before you were born. Recognizing these signs isn't about ego or thinking you're better than others. It's about awakening to the truth of your spiritual identity and stopping the fight against what you came here to do. Many people spend their entire lives ignoring these markers, trying to fit into a common mold, wasting precious years because no one ever explained that being different was exactly the plan. The divine favor that marks the chosen comes accompanied by specific responsibilities, and the sooner you recognize the signs, the faster you can align your life with the purpose that's calling you. In the next few minutes, we're going to dive into the 7 powerful signs that confirm your identity as chosen. And if you identify with most of them, prepare yourself for a radical shift in how you see your own journey. Each sign we'll explore will validate experiences you've had but never knew how to explain, will connect dots that seemed random, and will reveal that nothing you went through was by chance. It was all part of specific divine training for what's to come. The first unmistakable sign of a chosen one is having gone through a spiritual awakening so profound that it literally divided your life into before and after. We're not talking about a superficial religious experience or simply starting to attend church. It's a complete transformation of the soul that changes how you see absolutely everything. Suddenly, conversations that used to interest you now seem empty. Ambitions that motivated you lose their meaning, and you start questioning truths that society accepts without blinking. This awakening usually comes after a crisis, a devastating loss, a deep disillusionment, a moment of desperation where you hit rock bottom and realized you needed something greater than yourself. It's as if a veil fell from your eyes and you began to see reality in layers that others simply don't see. You start perceiving synchronicities, understanding that there's a bigger plan operating, feeling a connection with God that's personal and direct, not mediated by rituals or traditions that no longer make sense to you. After this awakening, there's no going back. You can no longer live in the automatic unconsciousness that dominates most people. Your energy changes, your presence becomes different, and the people around you notice something in you that they can't name but definitely feel. This is the starting point of the Chosen One's journey, when the soul awakens to the mission it came to fulfill, and nothing else carries the same weight or importance. The second sign that you're chosen sounds contradictory at first. You've experienced constant rejection throughout your life, but not the common type. It's a rejection that seems systematic, almost orchestrated. Groups exclude you for no apparent reason. People abandon you just when you needed them most. Opportunities that seemed certain simply evaporate in front of you. Most would interpret this as a curse or bad luck, but it's actually divine protection operating behind the scenes, moving you away from connections that would drain your purpose or trap you in paths smaller than your destiny. Think about it. Every door that slammed in your face was saving you from a detour that seemed attractive but led to the wrong place. That job that didn't work out prevented you from wasting years in a company that would suck your soul. That friendship that crumbled freed you from someone who would betray you at the first difficulty. That relationship that ended made room for a true connection at the right time. The Chosen One can't afford to follow the path of the majority, and God uses human rejection as a tool for divine direction. Over time, you develop a sharp discernment that allows you to see these rejections for what they really are, not personal failures, but confirmations that you're on the right path. When the wrong people reject you, it's a sign that divine favor is actively protecting you, ensuring you don't contaminate yourself with energies that would dilute the purity of the mission you carry. Rejection hurts, yes, but it hurts less when you understand it's a symptom of being aligned with a greater purpose that superficial connections could never fully comprehend or adequately support. The third sign is impossible to ignore. You carry a strong sense of purpose that has pursued you since childhood, an unshakable certainty that you were made for something greater, even when you can't define exactly what. It's not common ambition for success or fame. It's a deep spiritual restlessness that makes you feel out of place in normal situations, as if you're wasting precious time whenever you're not walking in the direction of that something that hasn't fully revealed itself yet. This feeling never abandons you, even in the most difficult moments when nothing seems to make sense. While others are content with predictable and comfortable lives, you feel a constant calling pushing you forward, reminding you that there's a mission waiting for you. It can be frustrating because you know you have a giant purpose but haven't yet received complete instructions on how to fulfill it. It's like having a map with the final destination marked, but without detailed directions on how to get there. This creative tension between knowing you were chosen and not yet fully living that calling is one of the most challenging experiences of the journey. But here's the secret. This sense of purpose isn't torture, it's a compass. It keeps you focused when distractions try to divert you, lifts you up when discouragement tries to knock you down, and reminds you of your true identity when the world tries to convince you to be mediocre. The Chosen One lives with this flame burning in their chest. Sometimes it's an ember that burns slowly, other times it's a fire that consumes everything, but it never, ever goes out completely, because it was planted by God and fueled by the divine favor that accompanies every step of your journey. The fourth sign that marks the chosen is an elevated spiritual discernment that functions like an ultra-sensitive radar. You feel energies, pick up true intentions behind polite words, and see beyond what's visible on the surface. It's not paranoia or judgment. It's a genuine ability to perceive layers of reality that most completely ignore. You walk into a room and instantly know who's pretending, who's suffering behind their smile, who carries bad intentions disguised as kindness. This gift is powerful, but it also isolates you because you can no longer accept fakeness as if it were normal. This sharpened discernment protects you from manipulations, spiritual traps, and toxic people that others take years to identify. While someone is selling you a beautiful story, You've already picked up on the contradiction between the words and the energy that person emanates, and 9 times out of 10, your instinct was right. The problem is that when you try to explain this to others, it seems crazy, because they still operate only on the physical level while you've already developed spiritual vision that pierces through masks and disguises. Over time, you learn to trust this discernment as an essential tool for your mission. After all, how will you guide people if you can't distinguish truth from lies, light from disguised darkness? This gift comes with responsibility. Using this elevated perception not to judge or feel superior, but to navigate the spiritual warfare that marks the life of every chosen one, protecting your connection with God from influences that try to contaminate your frequency and divert you from the purpose that was already defined even before you were born. The 5th sign is paradoxical but unmistakable. Your life is marked simultaneously by extraordinary divine favor and intense spiritual warfare. On one hand, you experience blessings that seem miraculous. Doors open out of nowhere. Provisions arrive in the most unlikely moments. Divine protection delivers you from situations that should have destroyed you. On the other hand, you face constant attacks, opposition that seems disproportionate to what you're doing, obstacles that arise just when you're about to advance. This spiritual roller coaster isn't coincidence. It's evidence that you're on the radar of both celestial forces and darkness. The greater the purpose God planted in you, the more intense the resistance you'll face. It's as if the spiritual enemy sees the giant potential you carry and mobilizes everything to stop you before you fully awaken to your mission. You might be going through inexplicable financial trials, health problems that doctors can't solve, relationships that explode for no apparent reason. All of this is spiritual warfare trying to tire you out, discourage you, make you give up before you discover who you really are and the power you carry when aligned with the divine. But here's the liberating truth. These attacks are confirmation that you're on the right path, not evidence that something is wrong. God's favor sustains you through every battle, and each victory over opposition strengthens you exponentially. The chosen one doesn't live in a protected bubble. They live on the battlefield where light and darkness dispute territory, but always with the certainty that the war has already been won. You just need to resist long enough to see the victory fully manifest in your physical and spiritual reality. The 6th sign that differentiates the chosen is a deep and personal connection with God that goes far beyond religion, rituals, or traditions. You don't need intermediaries to access the divine. Your communication is direct, intimate, like a conversation between friends who have known each other for eternities. It can be through dreams that carry clear messages, sudden insights that arrive at the exact moment, or simply that gentle inner voice that guides you when you're confused. This connection doesn't depend on you being in church or following religious protocols. It happens in the kitchen, in traffic, in the middle of the night when you're alone with your thoughts. Often, this direct relationship with God puts you in conflict with traditional religious structures because you can no longer accept doctrines that contradict what you personally experience in your spiritual journey. It's not rebellion. It's spiritual maturity that allows you to discern between what comes from human conventions and what is divine truth revealed directly to you. Your energy changes when you're aligned with this connection. You feel peace in the midst of chaos, clarity when everything seems confused, strength when you should be broken. This intimacy with the divine is simultaneously your greatest treasure and your greatest challenge, because the closer you get to God, the more distant you feel from people who still operate only on the superficial level of spirituality. But it's exactly this deep connection that equips you for your mission. You can't guide others to something you haven't experienced yourself, can't speak of a God you don't know personally. The chosen one carries this divine presence in such a tangible way that people feel something different in you, even without understanding exactly what, because your energy reflects the time you spend cultivating this sacred relationship that no one can take from you. The seventh sign is something others perceive in you even when you don't perceive it in yourself. You carry a unique energy and presence that influence environments and people just by being there. It's not superficial charisma or communication technique. It's something deeper, almost tangible, that makes people react strongly to your presence. Either they love you intensely or reject you for no apparent reason, but no one remains indifferent. You walk into a room and the atmosphere changes. Conversations stop, energies reorganize, and people feel something they can't name but definitely experience. This powerful presence comes from the combination of everything you've been through. The spiritual awakening that transformed your soul, the discernment that makes you see beyond the obvious, the deep connection with God that keeps you anchored in something greater. You don't need to talk much to make an impact. Sometimes it's just the way you look, the calm that emanates from you in crisis situations, the wisdom that shows through even in silence. The chosen one carries light so evidently that it both attracts lost people seeking direction and bothers those who prefer to remain in darkness. What's interesting is that you probably minimize this impact. Think people are exaggerating when they say you changed their life with a simple conversation, or that your presence brought peace in a chaotic moment. But this genuine humility is precisely what keeps your energy pure. You don't use this gift to manipulate or impress. You simply let it flow naturally as part of who you are. This differentiated presence is an essential tool for the leadership purpose that awaits you, because people don't follow arguments, they follow authenticity, and you carry an authentic energy that can't be faked or copied, only cultivated through years of divine preparation. Now, connecting all these signs, we arrive at a truth that explains much of your journey. The isolation you live through isn't punishment for being chosen. It's an essential part of divine preparation. Think about it. How would you develop this sharp discernment if you were constantly surrounded by noise and distractions? How would you cultivate this deep connection with God if your schedule were packed with superficial commitments? The divine favor that marks your life included strategically separating you so you could be molded without interferences that would contaminate the process. This isolation has layers. Sometimes it's physical, you're literally alone for long periods. Other times it's emotional, you're surrounded by people, but feel completely alone because no one understands what's happening inside you. Both are necessary. In physical solitude, you learn to hear God's voice without competition. In emotional isolation, you develop inner strength to sustain your mission even when no one believes or supports. Each phase of separation was refining your energy, calibrating your presence, preparing you to carry the weight of leadership without breaking halfway through. The rejection you experienced, the doors that closed, the people who disappeared, all of this was God creating the perfect, controlled environment for your spiritual training. It wasn't cruelty. It was divine strategy, knowing you couldn't develop the depth necessary for your purpose if you were living the shallow and hectic life that most people live. The chosen one needs solitude not because they're antisocial, but because the transformation God is operating in you requires a level of focus and intimacy with the divine that only happens when you're isolated long enough to stop resisting and start cooperating with the process. The final sign that ties all the others together is this: you weren't made to follow, you were called to lead. Not in the corporate or political sense that the world understands, but in a deep spiritual dimension where you'll guide lost souls back to the light, where your presence will bring healing to wounds that medicine doesn't reach, where your discernment will help others navigate the spiritual warfare they don't even know they're facing. All this time of preparation, each sign we've identified, each battle you survived, everything converges to this moment where you finally understand that your mission is to impact lives on a scale you still can't measure. True spiritual leaders aren't born ready. They're forged through years of isolation, tested through systematic rejections, refined through intense spiritual warfare. until their connection with God is so solid that nothing can shake them. You went through the awakening that transformed your worldview, developed the discernment that protects you from deception, cultivated an energy so powerful that people feel your presence before you even speak. Now all these gifts need to be directed toward the purpose that was always there, leading others through darkness using the light you carried even when you were alone in your own desert. This calling to leadership isn't optional, it's inevitable. The more you resist, the more life pushes you in this direction through situations where people naturally come to you seeking guidance, wisdom, comfort. You may not have a religious title, theology degree, or big platform, but you carry spiritual authority that comes from years of intimacy with God and battles won through divine favor. The chosen one doesn't choose to lead out of ambition. They accept this responsibility out of obedience, knowing that every person who crosses their path isn't coincidence, but part of the greater purpose that's finally revealing itself completely after so much time of seemingly endless preparation. So now tell me, how many of these 7 signs did you recognize in your own life? If you identified with 5, 6, or all 7, it's not coincidence. It's divine confirmation that you really are chosen with a sacred purpose that goes far beyond what you've been living until now. The question that remains is, what will you do with this revelation? Will you keep resisting the calling, trying to fit in where you were never made to belong? Or will you finally embrace your true identity and start cooperating with the plan God has for you? Think about everything you've been through. The spiritual awakening that transformed your soul, the rejection that was actually divine protection, the isolation that prepared you in secret, the spiritual warfare that confirmed you're on the right path. Each sign we explored isn't just a random characteristic. It's a piece of a larger puzzle that reveals your mission to lead, heal, and transform lives. You carry discernment that others don't have, a connection with God that doesn't depend on intermediaries, and a presence that impacts environments without you even trying. All of this was cultivated through years of preparation, and now the time has come for you to stop doubting and start acting. The divine favor that brought you here will sustain you in what's ahead, but you need to take the first step of accepting who you really are. If this message resonated deeply with you, if each sign seemed to describe exactly your journey, then don't keep this to yourself. Subscribe to the channel because we're going to continue exploring this journey of the chosen with content that will equip you for your mission. Leave a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to know where the chosen ones are scattered around the world. And turn on notification bells because every video we post is one more piece of the map guiding you to the destiny that was always yours. Remember, recognizing the signs is just the beginning. Living the purpose is the journey that awaits you, and you're not alone on this path. See you in the next video.